Welcome in everyone to the Larsonland podcast. I'm your host, Sawyer Hill, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Dylan Bradshaw. We come in here every single week and talk about all things involving the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series champion, Young Money Kyle Larson. Big weekend out at the Richmond Raceway for Kyle Larson. Got off to a good start on Saturday. Dylan picking up the pole, first pole of the year for Kyle Larson. A track where it's very important to start up front, but secured that number one pit stall. We've seen how important that's been on some of the short tracks over the past couple years, and nice to have that in the race. But at the end of the night, it was a third place finish for the 5 team. Lots to talk about throughout the race. It wasn't the most exciting race, but how they got to that third place finish was pretty interesting. The night kind of started off with some weather in the area, and luckily that got out of the way. But we got to see the race start off, the first short track race ever, starting off on the rain tires.
Yeah, pretty cool. I was gonna say pretty unprecedented. First time in the oval points cup race seeing the rain tires. 30 laps in, we did see the drivers switch from the wet tires to slicks. There was still some damp spots in the track. I know pit road they had to wait for the competitive pit stops because a lot of damp spots still in pit road. They were trying their best to dry it, but you obviously don't want to put the crew members at danger, end up slipping and falling during a pit stop. So eventually got dry. We got to see that later on, but yeah, just first stage Larson. I mean, obviously starting the pole, he was quick. He obviously won stage one. It was a good points day all in all for Larson on the day, so that's always good. But later there in stage one, we saw a good battle. Following that caution for the tire change between Larson and Bubba. I think that lasted about 6 or 7 laps or so, and then near the end of the stage, that caution came, kind of wrapped up stage one there, and Larson picked up that one. And then stage two, kind of similar. Him and Bubba had a pretty good battle there at the beginning. And I mean, it was pretty much Larson, Bubba, Truex. I mean, those guys were pretty much up front from this day. Larson stayed top 5 pretty much majority of the race. So some interesting stuff to talk about in this race. Some drama points. To talk about. I mean, the biggest thing there at the end in stage 3 with 2 laps to go, Larson running 4th place. Bubba, I mean, it kind of got tangled up there. Bubba hit his back fender and took a spin. Thankfully he was able to keep it straight. And I think only Bubba and Byron got ahead of him there in that sequence. And Larson pit crew got him out 2 spots ahead, started 4th in overtime. Thankfully, I mean, nothing bad came of that. We were able to get a spot higher than we were when we got spinned out, which was, I mean, pretty crazy. But Bubba came up to Larson, after the race, apologized, said it wasn't intentional. I don't really know. I mean, I don't know if he washed up and Bubba just didn't let off. I don't really know. But regardless, doesn't really matter. I mean, Larson ended up, like I said, finishing higher than he was, before that happened. But
yeah, I mean, that was definitely an interesting little incident there. I think it was kind of a racing deal. It looked like Kyle got a little bit loose coming up out of the turn, and then got checked up a little bit. Bubba didn't really have an option, but it was in my opinion a racing deal. I thought that it was going to be worse than what it was. I didn't realize Kyle was going to be able to keep his spot after that, or kind of blend back in because he didn't stop after the spin. So that was fortunate for them. But kind of backing up a little bit to the beginning of stage 2, I think stage 2 was really the turning point of the race for Kyle and the 5 team. They like you said, they dominated stage 1. They took home the stage 1 win, and they looked like they were going to be able to continue on to win stage 2. But strategy kind of came into play in stage 2, where you had Kyle and Alex Bowman and a couple other guys trying to one-stop the stage. They were trying to split it directly in half and only have to stop once, where you had Truex and some of the other front runners doing a 2-stop strategy in that stage. And the caution for Kyle Busch, scraping the wall or whatever you want to say, that really ruined Kyle's strategy, because he was on fresher tires, charging up there, about to pass those top 5 guys, and he was 6th place when the caution flew, and that kind of killed all of his track position for the rest of the night. I mean, We saw him have the opportunity to get it back, like you said, on pit road. They got him out ahead of Truex later on in the race on that final green flag pit cycle. But interesting stuff on that pit cycle too, Dylan. I was listening to the radio. Obviously, I was there at the track too, but Cliff said on the radio to Kyle. Kyle was kind of, as soon as that run started, he was like, he said that the car just felt awful. Like it was just completely different from what it was the rest of the race. And Cliff said that they had a mismatched set of tires on for that run. So I don't really know what that means. I don't know how that could happen. They had plenty of fresh sets. I think they had another, I think the set that they put on after that for that final pit stop was their last set of, fresh tires, but I don't see how they could end up with like a mismatched set there.
Yeah, I did watch that back over there when Truex took it ahead, and it looked like Larson. I mean, the announcer even touched on it, that he was trying to, get some wear off the tires. He was trying to find some grip there once Truex passed him. Yeah, I didn't know that they put mismatched tires on. I was wondering why he was like so slow, because he was holding off Truex there for a minute, and then Truex, I mean, he just flew past him. Was kind of wondering, what happened there, but yeah, didn't know he had mismatched tires on. That's kind of odd. I wonder if it was just like a mistake, or they were trying to save fresh tires for maybe some more cautions later on. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's pretty interesting. But
yeah,
obviously,
honestly, I kind of want some clarity on that, like what exactly that means, because I mean, when you think mismatched set of tires, like you're thinking maybe they put a set, some tires, like some of the tires on that were used, but it wasn't that. I mean, I was standing right there behind the pit box, and you could see like they were putting on a fresh set of tires, so it wasn't like they were putting on scuffs or anything like that. I'm thinking, did they put? Does that mean they're putting, the left front on the left rear by accident, or something got mixed up there? I don't know what exactly that means, but obviously it affects the car negatively, and that could have been, that was probably the opportunity that Kyle had to win the race there, and his car just couldn't do it.
Yeah, and I mean that wasn't, obviously wasn't the last of seeing Truex and Larson there. 2 laps to go, like I was talking about when Bubba got into Larson, it was 2 laps to go. Truex had the wind right in front of him. Caution obviously came out. I mean, car spinning, you got to throw it. And we got overtime. Like I said, Larson, he was able to get 2 spots back ahead on pit road. Hamlin, absolutely lightning fast pit stop from that 11 team. I think it was like sub 9 seconds or
You
something.
texted me. You were like, Hamlin's about to get this free win here, and I guess I was in denial, but
I saw it coming. I mean, home track, Richmond, Hamlin. I mean, I just knew he was backing into it. But unfortunate for Truex there. I mean, he's come so close. I mean, what was the other race? He was second, and he kind of got screwed out of it this year. I can't even think of it.
I can't
He
remember.
got screwed so many times.
It seems like that happens a lot to him. Well, they said it's happened a lot to him at Richmond too. Like I think they said it was like the 4th or 5th time that he's led like, what was it, like over 200 laps at Richmond and didn't win the race. Like that's a pretty crazy stat. Not one that you want to hold for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we saw him kind of take his anger out there at the end. I mean, in overtime with a lap left, we kind of saw Truex get loose a little bit on that final lap. He got into Larson. He door slammed him again coming to the line. Larson gave him a hit back after the flag. Then right after that, Truex started running into Hamlin after the race. So I don't know what was happening there. I mean, Larson's interview, he said, he thinks he was angry at Hamlin for, kind of getting that win, and he just took it out on Larson because he was the closest car to him. But not really sure. He got out of his car, was visibly angry. He was questioning that jump. That was a big topic of discussion. I mean, Hamlin kind of rolling on that restart. Elton Sawyer, the competition, I mean, he did say that they did review it. He said it was awfully close. I'm not sure. What do you think about it? It did look like he rolled a little bit. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm reading into it too much, but it did look like he got a little bit of a roll there at the restart.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of differing opinions, I guess, on that restart there at the end of the race, and I watched Hamlin's. He talked about it on at his podcast Actions Detrimental today, and he kind of openly admitted that he jumped the start. He didn't say it like that, but he said maybe he went a little bit early. But I think to anyone that's frustrated with the call from NASCAR, or I guess the no call, so to say, I would recommend go and take a look at that clip from Hamlin in his podcast, because he does a really good job selling his side of the story, kind of explaining, the things that he's looking at in that process during the restart. He's the control car. Obviously, he gets the opportunity to start the race between the two lines whenever he wants to, but I think it's interesting to see the side of, he's looking out the back, looking at what the 22 car is doing behind him. He said that Logano was lagging back. So he's thinking, okay, if Logano's lagging back and he's going to get a little bit of a run early on, who's really the control car at that point? Then Logano is really controlling the start, because he's lagging back and going to get a better run than Hamlin when he gets to the box. So, he's looking at that. He's looking at Truex to his outside. It's interesting to see. I think, honestly, I think it was an honest mistake. I think it was a jump start, but I do like the no call from NASCAR. I think if they get picky on stuff like that and start calling every single time, I think there's more restarts than people realize throughout the course of a race where somebody goes a little bit early.
It's probably just more put under a microscope because it's Hamlin.
Right.
I mean, he doesn't have, he has a lot of people rooting against him. And I mean, we've seen him get screwed before. I mean, I remember Pocono with that little piece of tape. He got disqualified.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, he's gotten his taste of his medicine with that. So
yeah.
Definitely would have been very controversial on both sides, but probably just, a situation where it's just way too close. I mean, to overturn a race winner for something like that. I'll have to look at that in his podcast though, and check that out. I mean, it seems interesting to see the point of view and how he breaks it down.
Well, and I think some people said it the best on Twitter that, the race was really ultimately won on pit road by his pit crew. I mean, he did maybe go a little bit early on that start, but him being the control car for that restart, even if he went right at the beginning of the zone, maybe the same outcome. So he ultimately had control of the race. He was the leader, and that was because his pit crew did an awesome job and got him out first ahead of the 19. So, I know Martin Truex Jr. He's frustrated with the result and wanted to win, and probably should have won that race, but he's got a fast car, and I definitely think the 19 is going to be in victory lane before it's all said and done in the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. He's been fast. He's proven that. I mean, they've been up there competing. Just got to put it together, and luck got to be on your side not to get that NASCAR overtime. It's hit us Larson fans,
Yeah.
A handful of times in the past few years, but it happens, and I definitely can see Truex, putting together another good playoff run. Hamlin, he's obviously in the mix. I mean, having multiple wins this year already. He's definitely one to be concerned about. I mean, Toyota in general. Toyota has really been strong here, especially these past few weeks. Going back to Phoenix, Richmond, same setup as Phoenix. They just completely dominated Phoenix, and we saw some good speed from them again, yesterday in Richmond. So, they're definitely ones to look out for. I mean, going ahead and into the second half of the season, and then going into playoffs. Curious to see how the other manufacturers were kind of respond to these races like Phoenix and Richmond, kind of where the Toyotas are just at the top and are just dominating everyone else.
I wanted to ask overall, this race, besides the little bit of drama at the end, the strategy in the middle, the rain tires starting off, we had some unusual things take place in this race, but for the most part, it was very hard to pass. We were on the short track package, the new short track package again. We've seen it with a couple other races this year. The only good short track race so far has really been Bristol. What do you think about, the package, and what do you think about, I know Jordan Bianchi of the Athletic dropped a report today saying that Richmond is in danger of losing their second date for next year. Do you think that Richmond, you can justify having two races at Richmond a year, or do you think, it's just a product of the package that we've seen?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do think the night race made it a little bit more interesting. I think it was kind of better than what we've seen in the day race. I think the package can definitely prove. I mean, like Phoenix, it's just I don't. It's hard to tell if it's really the track or the package because I mean Bristol it had a completely different
Yeah.
setup like with the tires and it just made it such a good race. It's really I don't know. It's just really kind of hard to tell because the short tracks have been the short tracks and road courses they've really been the races with this next gen car that have really been on a decline. I mean it's pretty much intermediates are the cream of the crop with this next gen car and they put on the best races. So I don't know. It's hard to tell. I mean Richmond it's we've had it for so long and in 2 dates. I mean, it's just kind of normal. You kind of expect it. It would be interesting to see. I mean, there are a lot of tracks out there that I would like to see 2 dates on the schedule. I'd like to see Homestead for 2 dates.
Yeah.
I think Dover is a track that puts on some pretty good racing. I think that'd be kind of cool to have 2 dates. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell though with if whether it's the package or the track. But given the history of the short tracks we've seen in the next gen, um, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think whether it's whether it is just the next gen car or not, I think if Richmond were to get replaced, one of their dates with another race, I just would hope it would not be another short track because I like the short track racing when it's good, but we've rarely seen a good race in the next gen car on the short tracks. So I think to do that to maybe take that away and add North Wilkesboro as a date on the as a points race. I think that would just be it would be counterproductive really. I mean you're just probably going to get the same exact result. I mean, obviously, I don't want to shoot North Wilkesboro down already. The repave, we'll see that here in about a month or so, or a little bit over a month. But I mean, the short tracks haven't been good. Like you said, a mile and a half like Homestead would be awesome to see. Even bringing back somewhere like Kentucky or whatever, like just a good mile and a half. I think that the sports drifted away too much from those mile and a halves that put on really good races in the next gen car.
Yeah, and then you have tracks like Fontana. I mean, tearing that great track down,
Yeah.
putting plans to put a short track in. I mean, that first next gen race at Fontana, that was like just a phenomenal race, and it kind of set the bar for what was to come with the next gen. And to tear it down, it's sad. I mean, I think that that's a big part of. I mean, obviously, I mean having old tracks with an old surface that brings tire strategy into play. That's what makes a lot of races great. That's kind of like what we saw with Bristol. I mean, when you put tire wear into play, it just makes it so much better. It makes the drivers rely more on conserving the tires, pit strategy, tire strategy, everything. So that really contributes to it. But you mentioned Wilkesboro. I mean that's kind of one point I kind of forgot about. I mean the repave, the All-Star race that we saw where Larson just flew from the rear to the front and just dominated. That had to do with tire wear, and it's kind of going to be a completely different scenario this year.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know. I would like to see more intermediate races, less short track at least until we get a package that maybe like Bristol where we have more tire wear come into play. But I don't know that will be interesting to see whether or not they'll take a Richmond off the schedule.
But and speaking to the point of North Wilkesboro, I mean, for the All Star race with the repave there, that's the opportunity for NASCAR to bring like this a similar tire as what they brought to Bristol, and maybe I don't know if they're on a brand new freshly paved track. I don't think they're going to put resin or PJ1 down or anything like that. But like if they can get a tire that wears like the one at Bristol at North Wilkesboro on the new surface, like that's a good time to test it out in a non points paying environment and kind of throw the teams a little bit of a curveball for the big all-star race win. But looking ahead for the NASCAR schedule, the series shifts to the Martinsville Speedway this coming weekend. Obviously a big weekend for Hendrick Motorsports, the 40th anniversary race. All the cars going to be sporting that special red paint scheme. I know that Kyle's car looks pretty good, but what are you looking forward to there at Martinsville? Anything?
Yeah, I mean the ruby red. That's what I was going to talk about. It's pretty cool. All the cars, decked out in ruby red. I would say Kyle's scheme kind of, matches it best. Of the four cars. But I mean, going in Martinsville, as far as Kyle's concerned, he finished sixth in last year's fall race, won last year's spring race at Martinsville. So we talk about time again when we have the short tracks coming up. Larson has definitely improved a lot on the short track, something we haven't seen in years prior. So It's definitely been good to him in this next gen car. Just picking up a third place finish at Richmond, got the pole. He's kind of continuing that upward trajectory on the short tracks. He has 18 starts there. He got that win in last year's spring race, like I said. 4 top 5, 6 top 10. So, hasn't been great to him in the past, but improving and hope to kind of see that momentum, going forward. Had a great points day yesterday at Richmond. Just looking to keep it up as we move forward.
Everybody keep your eye on the qualifying session on Saturday. That's going to be that's going to be the real race for Martinsville coming up. You're going to have to qualify up front. It's going to be hard to pass. I don't expect it to be any better than what it's been the past couple of years with this new package. So, hopefully Kyle can put it on the pole and get pit stall number 1 again.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we really have to look out for is just hope for no speeding penalties for Kyle going
Oh
on pit
God,
road.
yeah, the
That's
Martinsville
pretty much,
speeding penalties.
yeah,
Yeah,
that'll get him pretty bad. I mean, it's almost inevitable at this point. What was it? Was it 2 years ago? He had like 2 or 3 speeding penalties down
yeah.
pit road at Martinsville.
Yeah.
It was
Luckily, I
pretty
mean,
bad.
he hasn't had many speeding penalties recently over like the
Mhm.
past year or so. So, knock on wood, hopefully, hopefully not going to happen this week. But other than that, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Over the past couple weeks, we've got the Indy 500 Open test coming up here in just a couple weeks on the April 10th and 11th. And then also High Limit Sprint Car Series getting back in action with the Midweek Money Series out at the Riverside International Speedway on April 9th. Then the High Limit Series will shift to Texarkana 67 Speedway and the dirt track at Texas on April 12th and 13th. Kyle going to be at both of those events leading into Texas Motor Speedway weekend for the NASCAR Cup Series on April 14th. Racing starting to really ramp up, Dylan. I know I'm pumped for these events and glad to see the 57 back out there and hopefully seeing the Rumley 6 out there as well. The Rumley 6 stuff, I'm kind of like, maybe it's not going to happen a little bit here because right now Hudson O'Neal driving that 71 for Rumley now that he's out of the Rocket House car. So, I don't know if they're going to what that deal is going to end up being, if it's going to end up being a little bit more long term than the couple week deal they have right now. But want to definitely see Kyle in the late model here soon.
Yeah, cool to have it back. It's weird we haven't had it for the past month. I know when I did the newspaper post last night at the bottom when I put about dirt racing, just had no other plans for racing for Kyle and just been dishing out for a month. It's kind of weird it's here. Riverside coming up on the night, so glad to have that back. Get to cover dirt and NASCAR. Add some more content for the podcast too. We've just been able to talk about NASCAR, kind of hoping for a little bit of drama spots here and there to talk about. But coming soon. 57 cars back in action, and then really looking forward to that Indy Open test. That's where we're really going to see how Kyle reacts to some traffic, some drafting with some other cars there. At the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So that's going to be really cool to, look forward to. And then, it's Texarkana. I'll be honest, I've never heard of that track until they
Me
announced
either.
it on the schedule. So I have no idea what it looks like, the distance of it, nothing about it. So I guess that's kind of, a surprise for me. I'll have to look more into that. But some exciting stuff on the schedule coming up for sure.
Absolutely. Another exciting race was this week's Kyle Larson Race of the Week on the Larsonland podcast. This week's race comes from August 22nd, 2020 at the Red River Valley Speedway with the World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Cars. Larson started on the outside of row 2 in that race and ran the 3rd position early on before taking the lead with 17 laps to go. It was a thriller between Larson and Brad Sweet as they traded the lead back and forth for several laps, but Larson ultimately came out on top, picking up the win in that one. As usual, the link will be in the description of the YouTube version of the podcast to check out that race. Definitely probably one of the most exciting ones that we've had so far. The other ones have kind of been just random ones here and there, but that one was a really good race back from 2020. So if you get the chance, check that one out.
Yeah, I mean, if you say, Kyle Larson in sprint car in 2020, you can kind of assume that he's picking up the win.
It's like a
And
50% chance as a win, or maybe like a
yeah,
60% chance.
how many wins did he have? I mean, it was just an absurd amount.
Yeah, it was a lot.
But yeah, I mean that should pretty much wrap it up. I mean, at least we kind of got a relatively new Larson race of the week that we can kind of remember for the most part. We appreciate everyone. I hope everyone had a good Easter weekend yesterday. Got to sit back, watch the race with your family and everything. We appreciate the support as always. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe on this video. Leave your thoughts as always. Any drama spots in the race that you might have, opinion about. And we will see you guys in the next video.
Absolutely. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back again next week to recap Martinsville and kind of preview some of the dirt stuff coming up for Kyle. If you're watching this on YouTube, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please follow our podcast so you don't miss a thing. Hope you guys have a great rest of the week, and we will see you in the next episode.